Before we get into today's show, let me tell you about the latest deal from Mike Lindell, MyPillow. Once again, the big box stores have canceled their orders simply because they don't agree with Mike Lindell's politics. They don't like it because he supports President Trump. Well, he's going to pass that savings on to you. No more middleman. And boy, does he have some great deals on the Giza Dream sheets and the Percal bed sheets. Listen to this. Giza Dream queen size, normally $139.98. Your wholesale price, $69.99 when you use promo code Joey. King size, only $79.99. The Percal queen size, normally $89.98. Your wholesale price, $29.98 when you use promo code Joey. Just call 1-800-893-4059 or go to mypillow.com. Always use promo code Joey. Free shipping options available. This allotment's not going to last very long. When they're gone, they're gone. mypillow.com. Promo code Joey. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Welcome in as we are broadcasting from Jerusalem today at the Jewish News Syndicate. We'll be here for the rest of the week, so be sure and stay with us. We're going to be covering things that are happening here in Israel, and of course we'll take care of the breaking news back home in the States, too. One story that's not getting a lot of attention yet, primarily because officials haven't been able to get into some of the areas of Gaza, but that's the huge problem that is and will be affecting Gaza probably for decades, and that's the thousands of landmines buried throughout the Gaza Strip that is maiming and killing people every day already. We'll talk about the efforts to find and destroy those weapons. Secretary of State Marco Rubio was just leaving Tel Aviv as we were arriving. The Secretary was in Israel to continue supporting and fine-tuning the peace agreement. And municipalities will have elections next week. Council members, mayors, water commissioners, all on the ballot next Tuesday, November the 4th. Plan to vote because these are important elections. Greenville Water Commissioner Deb Sofield joins me today to talk about how these positions affect your daily life and how it's important for you to vote.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but, they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
So a lot to cover. We're going to jump right in. There's, as I mentioned, we're broadcasting from the Jewish News Syndicate. Just a beautiful facility, great studios. Mike Gallagher and I have been here a number of times over the years. They pointed out to me, and their website, jns.org, is a great resource, and they pointed out a fascinating new look into how Americans are viewing the aftermath of the Israel-Gaza war, a new poll indicating how Americans, what we feel about the whole thing. This survey is from the Jerusalem Center for Security and Foreign Affairs. It's this organization is a respected Israeli think tank. They found that while most of Americans still sympathize more with Israel than with Hamas, there's been a noticeable rise in empathy towards the Palestinian people themselves. You see these images of these kids and these families and their totally destroyed homes, and Americans are starting to feel for them, as we should. They're human beings. In other words, Americans are learning to separate Palestinians from Hamas, the terror group that's ruled Gaza with an iron fist for years and have decimated that Gaza Strip. Now, that's an important distinction, and one that could shape how public opinion drives U.S. policy in the Middle East going forward. The survey was released just this past week. They questioned 322 randomly selected Americans after the ceasefire that ended the recent Israel-Gaza war, the same ceasefire President Donald Trump helped broker before giving that landmark speech at the Knesset in Jerusalem just over a week ago. It asked 7 key questions about how Americans view Israel, how they view Hamas, and the future of the Palestinian territory. So let's start with the first question. Where does your empathy lie? This has been asked in several different polls over the past few years. Once again, Israel came out on top Americans still overwhelmingly say that their sympathy lies with Israel. But here's the shift. When you combine those who say they feel empathy for Palestinians, not Hamas, and those who support Hamas directly, that number now exceeds those who say they side purely with Israel. Now, that doesn't mean Americans are backing terrorists. Far from it. What it shows is that more people are distinguishing between innocent Palestinians who are just caught in the crossfire and the extremists who brought this war on their own people and destroy their own country. And that's the distinction that could prove critical as this debate about Gaza's future continues. Next, the survey asks who Americans believe won the war. The most common answer, neither side. About two-thirds of respondents say no one truly won, which reflects the grim reality that this war, like so many others, left behind devastation but no decisive victory. They pretty much just destroyed a country for what? But among a third of the respondents who did pick a winner, Israel came out ahead by a margin of more than 3-1. So Americans may not see a clear victory, but when they do take sides, they say Israel is the stronger, more legitimate actor in the conflict, as they should. And then there's the question of responsibility. The survey found that 41% of Americans believe Palestinian citizens share at least some responsibility for Hamas's actions, while 38% say Israeli citizens bear similar responsibility for their government's decisions as well. That's pretty close, a near split, and it suggests that many Americans see both sides' populations as complicit in some way, or at least connected to the choices that their leaders make. It also shows the enduring American instinct for fairness, the idea that no conflict is completely one-sided and that accountability often falls on ordinary citizens too. And that's how it should be. The perception may not always match the reality on the ground, but it's a deeply ingrained part of how Americans view global conflicts. Now, here's the big one, or one of the big ones. Who do people think will break the ceasefire first? No surprise here, 27% said Hamas would violate it first, as we've seen that already, compared to about 20% who thought Israel would. Another 25% said both sides were equally likely to do so. Only 5% believed the ceasefire would actually hold without some violations. That's right, because it tells you just how little faith Americans have in Hamas. Again, we saw it within days of the ceasefire. It's been sort of an on again, off again. That's why Secretary of State Marco Rubio was in Israel. We literally just almost passed in the airport as we were leaving the other day. We were arriving, he was leaving. He is here to work on that ceasefire. A majority still say they want to see an independent Palestinian state living peacefully alongside Israel. Despite all the turmoil, the two-state solution remains the most popular idea among Americans. But, and it's a big but, when you start adding conditions, support drops fast. When respondents were told that Palestinians would have to recognize Israel as a Jewish state, give up the right of return and reform their education system to remove anti-Israel pro-terror teachings, support for Palestinian statehood dropped by about 10 percentage points. At the same time, support for a demilitarized state, one controlled by international peacekeepers, and for autonomous Palestinian region under Israeli security oversight both increased slightly. And opposition to any Palestinian statehood at all ticked up too. It's a complicated situation. It's been complicated, the relationship with the Palestinians, the Israelis, the various terrorist groups in the area. It's been complicated for thousands of years, folks, and so we can't, even Donald Trump can't end it overnight. But boy, he's come close, hasn't he? Well, when you ask Americans about peace in broad, idealistic terms, they're all for it. And this survey supports that. But when you get down to the details, recognition, renunciation of terror, education reform, that support starts to erode. In other words, Americans are compassionate, but we're also not naive. We want peace, but we expect accountability, particularly since they're spending our money in most cases. So it's going to be an interesting situation. It's going to be one that the world's going to be watching over the coming days and weeks, and particularly months and years. This survey underscores a broader message for Israel, what the report calls an opportunity for Israeli public diplomacy. Basically, the takeaway is this: Americans are open to supporting Palestinian independence if they see it as being built on the principles of peace, transparency, and coexistence. And that is what we have to be watching for. Let's be honest, those summer vacations and backyard barbecues added some extra pounds, right? But instead of feeling guilty or falling further behind, it's time to reset, drop the weight, and get back in control. The solution isn't a shot. Real lasting weight loss starts with your mind, not your mouth. At PhD Weight Loss, Dr. Ashley Lucas and her team help you uncover the real reasons behind your weight gain so that you can reprogram the way you think about food forever. PhD clients lose up to a third of their body weight without ever taking a drug. I know because I lost 33 pounds with PhD Weight Loss. Through real food, behavioral coaching, and proven science, your body can become a natural fat-burning machine. Why risk spending thousands on shots that strip away muscle, come with dangerous side effects, and leave most people regaining 60% of the weight within a year? With PhD, you'll activate your body's natural appetite control, burn fat safely, and stay in control. Even if you're already on Ozempic, PhD can help you transition off while still losing weight. Take the first step today. Call 864-644-1900 or visit myphdweightloss.com. As we continue this special edition of the show from the Jewish News Syndicate in Jerusalem, where I'll be all week this week, I want to talk about a story that's not getting a lot of attention right now, probably will later, one that goes beyond politics and beyond the headlines, because in the war-torn rubble of Gaza, and it is rubble, you've probably seen some of the images. It's just amazing how that country has just literally been destroyed in these last 2 years. Something tragic is happening right now, though, that could haunt that region for generations to come. According to experts on the ground, Gaza has effectively become a minefield, a deadly landscape littered with unexploded bombs, shells, and improvised explosives. The United Nations says at least 53 people have already been killed and hundreds more injured after stumbling upon these hidden devices. And the experts are warning it could take 20 to 30 years to clear this mess up. Nick Orr is an explosive ordnance expert with the humanitarian group Humanity and Inclusion. He put it bluntly. He said Gaza is now a horrific, unmapped minefield, comparing it to British cities after World War II, where unexploded bombs continued to surface decades later. And he didn't sugarcoat the outlook. He said, if you're looking at a full clearance, it's never happening. We will find it for generations to come, he said. Now think about that. 30 years, maybe longer, before families in Gaza can safely walk through their neighborhoods, before children can play outside without risking their lives, before the land is truly free from the remnants of war. And they kind of did this to themselves. Orr's team, just 7 people right now, is part of a small humanitarian mission trying to map where these explosives are buried. They're focusing on high-risk areas near hospitals, bakeries, schools, the places where civilians and children have no choice but to return. But the work is nearly impossible, they say. Picture this: entire city blocks reduced to rubble. Every piece of debris, possibly hiding a bomb. Some are buried deep underground, others wedged between collapsed walls. You don't know where they are. And you got kids running through it like kids like to do. They find this type of thing, it's a playground for them. They love to go to these hidden areas. With limited access and constant danger, the pace is going to be painfully slow, according to officials. Orr said that they're still waiting on permission from Israel to remove and destroy the explosives they find, which they plan to burn so Hamas can't reuse them for future attacks. Now think about this. Aid groups are worried that Hamas might try to recycle unexploded munitions into new weapons. It's a grim reminder that in Gaza, every inch of progress is tied to politics and to danger and hundreds of years of history. Now, the United Nations Mine Action Service, the agency that oversees global demining efforts, is calling for a mass public awareness campaign in Gaza. They want to warn civilians returning to their neighborhoods, don't touch, don't pick up, don't go near anything that looks suspicious. But again, you get kids out there, kids don't know any better. They say right now people are dying simply because they're going home. They're walking through rubble to salvage what's left of their lives, and one wrong step, and it's all it takes. They're gone or horribly scarred. It's heartbreaking if you think about this. History has shown us how long the scars of war can last. It took Mozambique 22 years, 2 full decades to finally declare itself mine-free after its civil war. In Vietnam, 50 years after the fall of Saigon, there are still tens of thousands of unexploded mines buried beneath the soil, they say. The Vietnamese government estimates that about 18% of the country's land is still contaminated. Since 1975, those hidden explosives have killed 40,000 people and injured 60,000 more. That's nearly the population of an entire small town in some areas, gone because of weapons left behind. So when these experts say Gaza could take 30 years to clear, they're not exaggerating. And the challenge isn't just technical, it's humanitarian, economic, and political. Right now, Gaza is one of the most densely populated areas on the planet. Millions of people live within 140 square miles, an area smaller than Greenville County here in the upstate of South Carolina. Every bomb that didn't go off during an airstrike or a ground battle was sitting somewhere beneath their homes, their streets, and their playgrounds. And this is the danger that they're going to be facing. And the longer those devices sit there, the more unstable they become. One aid worker said it's like living on top of a powder keg of invisible death. Now, here's where this story gets even more complicated. Many of these explosives were placed or stored by Hamas, hidden in tunnels, under schools, inside mosques, and in residential areas. That's why the Israelis say their airstrikes inevitably hit civilian zones, because Hamas embedded the military infrastructure inside them. And now as the war winds down, and hopefully the ceasefire holds, those same hidden weapons are posing an even deadlier threat to civilians than the initial conflict did itself. Humanitarian groups want to help, but they can't move freely in the area without cooperation from both sides. Meanwhile, every week that passes, more innocent people are killed, not by politics or ideology, but by the debris of war. I guess the bottom line here, folks, is this story reminds us that war doesn't end when the shooting stops. The headlines fade, the cameras move on, but the suffering continues quietly, relentlessly, maybe for decades. Children born today in Gaza may grow up and have children of their own before the land is safe to rebuild. And that's the true cost of this conflict. Not just the lives lost in battle over these past couple of years, but the generations condemned to live among its ruins for generations to come. Now, I know some people say, well, Joey, why should we care what happens in Gaza? And I get it. The Middle East has been a powder keg for as long as most of us can remember. But here's why it matters, because what we're seeing there is a warning, a picture of what happens when evil goes unchecked and when entire societies are built around hate and violence instead of peace and rebuilding. Because at the end of the day, this isn't just about bombs and rubble. It's about people, God's people. It's great to be back in Israel. This is my 6th trip. And as we were coming in today, Secretary of State Marco Rubio had just wrapped up a 3-day visit aimed at supporting the rollout of President Trump's comprehensive plan to end the conflict in Gaza. The State Department says Mr. Rubio's trip is all about reaffirming America's unwavering commitment to Israel's security and working with regional leaders to build on what they're calling historic momentum towards a lasting peace. Mr. Rubio's not alone. He joined a high-level U.S. delegation that's already on the ground, been here. Vice President J.D. Vance has been here, of course, in the region last week. White House Middle East envoy Steve Witkoff arrived the day before the Secretary of State. Jared Kushner is back in the mix, we're told, all signaling how seriously the Trump administration is taking this moment, this time. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu met with Vice President Vance over the weekend, late last week, I guess it was. He called the U.S.-Israel relationship under President Trump an unmatched alliance. He said, quote, he creates opportunities not only for security, but for the expansion of peace, which we're working on very, very diligently, the Prime Minister said. And Vice President Vance didn't mince words either. He said disarming Hamas is the priority, but so is rebuilding Gaza in something that gives its people hope and ensures Hamas never rises again. And that has to be our goal. We got to make sure that Hamas can't do this same thing again. Gaza was totally destroyed. And as I talked about in the previous segment, it's going to be tough. There's going to be bad things happening in Gaza for a long time to come with all the mines that are over there. He also mentioned close coordination with Arab partners, hinting at a broader coalition forming behind the scenes to do this because it's going to be a big job. And as I've said before, we have to play our part, but the United States can't be the leader on this. We can't play more than our part. The whole region needs to jump in. And that's what's so unique about President Trump's relationship with this region. With top U.S. officials stacked shoulder to shoulder here, it's clear that the White House is betting big on this being more than just a ceasefire. They're trying to reshape the future of the Middle East. And as we are here in Jerusalem this week and in Israel, we'll continue to talk with people and just see what the general mood is of the Israelis and if they feel confident. Because, look, most people who've lived here for a while, they've been through this over and over again. So I'm going to be curious as I'm able to get out and about today and talk with people just what their attitude is. If they really believe that this is truly a ceasefire and that they can start rebuilding Gaza and that the Israelis can get back to a somewhat normal life. We'll see. It's going to be fun. It's going to be educational being here this week, and I want to share as much of this with you as I can. We're broadcasting from the Jewish Network Syndicate here in Jerusalem, and we arrived in Tel Aviv late last night. We'll be out during the day, later today, getting some interviews and, again, following up with people that we spoke with 2 years ago when we were here soon after the October 7th attacks. When I say we, I'm talking about my friend Mike Gallagher as well. Mike is doing his show from Jerusalem as well. So just plan to be with me throughout the week. And we're going to keep hitting on the headlines and all, too, of what's going on back home. But we'll also give you a little glimpse of what's happening in Israel, too. And speaking of back home, you know, every once in a while, Washington gives us one of those moments where all the conspiracy theories turn out to be, well, not theories at all. Senator Chuck Grassley, late last week and over the weekend, dropped bombshells that are sending shockwaves through the political world. Mr. Grassley released Justice Department memo. This was dated April 2022, showing that then Attorney General Merrick Garland, Deputy Attorney General Lisa Monaco, and then FBI Director Christopher Wray personally approved an FBI investigation into the Trump campaign, long after Donald Trump had left office. The code name for the investigation, Arctic Frost. And according to Senator Grassley, this memo proves that top Biden administration officials unleashed unchecked government power at the highest levels. Here's what the memo actually says. It's 4 pages long, dated April 5th, 2022, and it authorizes the FBI's Washington field office to open a sensitive investigative matter into whether people connected to Donald Trump's 2020 campaign conspired to obstruct Congress's certification of the election results on the infamous January 6, 2021. Now, remember, this wasn't an investigation of rioters or trespasses at the Capitol. This was a federal probe into the Trump campaign and some of the associates themselves, more than a year after he had left the White House. This is how badly the Biden administration wanted to try to take down Donald Trump, to permanently damage him so he could never run again. This memo claimed that there was open source reporting and public statements from people closely associated with the Trump campaign that created, quote, an artificial and articulable factual basis indicating the existence of a federal crime. And because this was a sensitive investigative matter, meaning it involved political figures, the FBI couldn't open it on its own. So Mr. Garland, Ms. Monaco, Mr. Wray had to personally sign off, and they did all on the same day. Did not even hesitate. It's almost as if they knew it was coming and they were ready to sign. Monaco scribbled a note at the bottom Merrick, I recommend you approve. Sure she did. Garland signed just a few hours later. So let's get this straight. Let's look at this. The sitting attorney general, his top deputy, and the head of the FBI personally approved an investigation into the campaign of the man who was and still is Joe Biden's chief political rival. Joe Biden will go to his grave hating the existence of Donald Trump. But if this doesn't raise red flags of what was actually happening and what Joe Biden was capable of, I don't know what does. Senator Grassley said it perfectly. This memo shows Biden officially personally approved a politically charged case targeting Trump's circle. My oversight will continue, Senator Grassley said. And it's not just Grassley. Republicans across the board are comparing this to Watergate. Only this time, the spying isn't being done by burglars with flashlights. It's being done by the FBI itself, which makes it just unbelievable. Now, this operation, Arctic Frost, predates special counsel Jack Smith's appointment by several months. It appears to be the first phase of the investigation that later grew into Smith's so-called fake electors probe. You remember that, right? The theory that Trump allies in a few battleground states tried to submit alternate slates of electors to challenge the 2020 results. Well, this memo shows that before Jack Smith ever came on the scene, the FBI already was building that case with full backing from the Justice Department's top brass, all the way to the top. And here's where things really get interesting. In 2023, Jack Smith subpoenaed phone records from 8 Republican senators and 1 House member. He wanted to see their call logs from January 4th to January 7th, 2021, the day surrounding the Capitol riot. Among those targeted, Senators Marsha Blackburn, Senator Josh Hawley, Senator Lindsey Graham from my home state of South Carolina, and Senator Ted Cruz. Cruz said this week that his carrier, AT&T, told him the DOJ tried to get his records but refused to hand them over. Think about that for a second. The Biden Justice Department was secretly requesting a call out of sitting U.S. senators, most of whom are political opponents. That's just how obsessed the Biden administration was with Donald Trump and with January the 6th. And now we know that Garland, Ms. Monaco, Mr. Ray had greenlit the broader investigation months earlier. Smith and his team insist this was all perfectly normal. They say the subpoenas were narrowly tailored and routine, just an effort to verify communications relevant to the investigation. They also point out that the records didn't include the content of the calls, just the numbers, dates, and durations of the call. But come on, does anyone really believe this is routine for him to be asking secretly for the call logs of sitting U.S. senators, of the opposing party of the sitting president? When federal prosecutors start combing through the private phone logs of sitting members of Congress, all from the opposition party, we're not talking about routine law enforcement. We're talking about political surveillance that exceeds anything that Watergate was about. And we know how Watergate ended up. Another piece of the puzzle, according to FBI Director Kash Patel, the Bureau's internal corruption squad was actually dismantled after some agents raised concerns about political bias in their cases. This is rotten, folks, and there's probably more of it that's going to be coming out real soon. Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Furman Ford text line, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Furman Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you can trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Furman Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Furman, Matthew Furman. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Furman Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Furman Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Furman Ford online at furmanford.com, furmanford.com. Deb Sofield serves as a water commissioner for the Greenville water system, and coming up on November the 4th, the residents of Greenville will be going to the polls to choose their commissioners and members of city council. Deb joins me today to talk about the importance of voting in the city elections. Welcome, Deb. Always good to have you.
Thank you, Joey. Always good to be with you.
Now, I'm not sure that most people necessarily realize that members of the Water Commission are elected. How many commissioners are there, and who can vote in this?
So you're right. Since it was an original Greenville city water system, there are 5 of us. The mayor always sits on it, and the mayor chooses someone. And many years ago when I was on city council, Mayor Knox White chose me. So we were at that time the 2 city representatives. And then there's 3 that are elected by the public at large in the city of Greenville only. It is myself. I sit there, and I'm also on the ballot in November. I'm very grateful that nobody filed against me, so I am unopposed. There's also John DeWorkin, who again is a city representative. Philip Kilgore is on with us, and Jim Bannister. So there's 5 of us, and yes, the city of Greenville is the only municipality that has people vote in party politics, partisan races. If you look at the other ones, Travelers Rest, Simpsonville, Malden, Greer, Fountain Inn, those are at-large general positions. They are not Republican or Democrat. The city of Greenville has maintained that, and it's been in place for probably, 100 years.
Yeah. So earlier in the summer then, there were primaries for the respective parties to nominate their candidates, and then as we go into the November 4th election, the general election, then you'll pull the lever either for a Democrat candidate or a Republican candidate.
Only in the city of Greenville will you pull the lever for that. Outside of all in the county areas, you're just going to go pick a person.
Yeah.
And I will say there were very few. I don't think we had any primary races. Everybody ended up being into the general. Yeah. And it's a little confusing for the public to know, well, when do we vote? What's going on? There was the primary to fill Senator Roger Nutt's seat. He handed it to Bobby Cox. Bobby he accepted it, but then he stepped out. So that opened up that for a race.
Yeah, yeah. Let's talk about city council. There are some individual districts and some at-large seats. Who's on the ballot in Greenville City? And we'll talk about some of the other municipalities too. And also, why are these municipal elections always in off years?
You know, Joey, your guess is as good as mine as why they're in off years. I think it is to not be swept up with national elections. And so, unfortunately, that hurts. Yeah. So let's talk about City of Greenville, at-large member, who is taking Russell Stahl's place, is Matt Alexander and Tina Belgie. So that is a runoff. Matt is our Republican nominee. Tina is the Democrat nominee. And then there's District 2, which is Lillian Brock Fleming. And then a guy named Mike Kilgore has thrown his hat in the ring, primarily because District 2 has been completely changed through the years. My dad's paper plant was down there. He would not even recognize it anymore. They've torn down all the old buildings and things that were manufacturing and have put up all these new homes. And that goes into Lillian's district. City of Greenville has always tried to maintain an opportunity for the African Americans to have a voice in government. So there's 2 seats that are usually held by African Americans. Lillian has been there probably 40 plus years. And then Jill Littlejohn gave her seat to Ken Gibson. So those 2 seats are what you would consider the African American seats. If Mr. Kilgore were to win, then it just leaves Ken Gibson, and that's going to be interesting to see. Redistricting changed a lot of that. Yeah. But also the city of Greenville has changed tremendously, and you just don't have the population you used to have in the past. Yeah, the demographics have certainly changed, and I think that's what Mr. Kilgore is counting on. Absolutely. Traditionally, he probably would not have much of a chance, but possibly this year.
So
he could. Absolutely. People are going to get out and vote. And, of course, that election is the November election.
Yep.
There is unopposed council member Will Brasington. He's District 4. No one filed against Will. And then, of course, I'm so grateful no one filed against me for Public Works.
Yeah. Deb Sofield's my guest today. She serves on the Greenville Water Systems Commission. Her name will be on the ballot, unopposed. But there will be others on there as well. I guess I'm a little concerned here, Deb, that I write a check to you guys every month, but I don't get to vote.
Yeah. Oh, goodness, we're not going down that road, are we? You're right. You're exactly right. The city built the system, and the city has maintained control of that. And let's just be honest, the Greenville water system doesn't have to supply water anywhere except to the city of Greenville. So, come on, give me a little bit of gratitude that we do supply all the way out to where you live. You think about all the miles of pipe we've had to pay for.
I'm just I'm so thankful for the opportunity. Yes.
There we go. There we go.
What does turnout typically look like in the city election?
I got to tell you, it is shockingly low.
Yeah.
And you want to say to people, please don't go bellyache on Facebook because you didn't go vote.
Right.
So we could take, looking at the last election, and I'm going to say this is 2024. It was probably the biggest one we've had recently. Joey, they're registered over 300,000 people.
Yeah.
Barely 28% came out to vote.
Wow. Yeah.
That really hurts. And when you look at some of the other numbers, it is shocking. So again, we have all these folks who have so many people who pretty much say, we need to go do this, we need to go do that. Let's look at just what happened there was a primary for District 21. The numbers there should be in the thousands.
Yeah.
But you've got a runoff with basically two people at barely 2,000 votes.
Yeah.
So that's fascinating. I look at the Senate district that happened last night to take Roger Nutt's seat.
Yeah.
It barely had 4,000 people vote.
Yeah.
And there's over 300,000 in those areas.
Yeah.
Folks just don't come out. And you have to ask why. And let me just give you a quick story. So I have a good friend, very well known, very well loved. She put a text message to her neighborhood and basically said, hey, everybody, make sure you get out and vote. And she said, Deb, you won't believe this. Somebody who knows I'm not a nut wrote me back and said, I'm so sick of politics. Don't put this out here for all of us.
Wow.
And she said, I thought to myself, if you don't get involved in politics, politics is going to get involved in your life.
Yep.
But I believe people are tired.
Yeah.
And I think they don't trust anything anymore. All these folks who are unhappy and we don't want a king. Well, good. We don't have one, people. We have a duly elected president.
Yeah.
It's just turned into a very unfortunate and ugly, ugly business.
Yeah, it unfortunately has. But, hey, it affects everybody's life. So if you're listening today, mark November the 4th on your calendar because you got to get out and vote. It affects your lives. If you live in the city of Greenville, maybe some of the other municipalities, Travelers Rest, Fountain Inn, Simpsonville, you got to pay attention and go vote because whether you like it or not, these city councils, they affect your life on a daily basis. Deb, it's always a pleasure to have you. And, hey, I would say good luck, but, hey, I don't know that you necessarily need it being unopposed, but I'm glad that you'll be our water commissioner again.
Well, thank you. Make sure you vote for me, too. Otherwise, you could get a write-in. You never know. I know I vote for me. So, yeah there's one vote.
There you go. Yeah, Deb Sofield.
Thanks for having me.
Sure thing. That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, join me on my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. Just search for Joey Hudson. As always, thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Do me a favor and forward this episode to a few friends. Just click on the share button and send to your contacts. We need to build an army of conservatives to win our country back, and we can do that by continuing to share the truth with our friends and family. Keep those comments coming via the Furman Ford text line 864-477-JOEY. Email to joey@joeyhudson.com. And I love your messages on the MyPillow message line. Again, that's 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Be sure and take advantage of the MyPillow special, just $14.88 on the standard MyPillows when you use promo code Joey. Order online at MyPillow.com or call 800-893-4053. We're back again tomorrow and hope you'll plan to join us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.